Hello and welcome to another episode of Nice News. My name is Fernando Florido, a GP in the United Kingdom. Today we'll be discussing the NICE guidance and advice published in May 2023, specifically for primary care. This month we're focusing on cardiovascular risk assessment and digital technologies for anxiety and depression. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this episode is not medical advice, it is only my interpretation and you must always use your clinical judgment. I'd like to remind you that there is a YouTube version of this episode which can be found in the episode description. Now with that said, let's get straight into it. The first clinical area refers to cardiovascular risk assessment and lipid modification, where new updated recommendations have been made. And the first one is to offer those 25 to 84 years of age a cardiovascular risk assessment using the QRisk-3 tool. This is because evidence suggested that the additional fields included in QRisk-3, such as severe mental illness, regular corticosteroid use, and atypical antipsychotic use, enable the tool to perform better than QRisk-2 at predicting cardiovascular events. If the 10-year risk of cardiovascular event is 10% or more, we will check for secondary causes, give lifestyle advice and consider atorvastatin 20 mg for primary prevention and atorvastatin 80 mg for secondary prevention. If a statin is given, we will check lipids and LFTs at 3 months. NICE also reinforces their advice against aspirin in primary prevention. The definition of high-intensity statins was also updated to remove simvastatin 80 mg, which is rarely used because of the risk of myopathy. Finally, evidence showed that statins are cost-effective for people with a 10-year cardiovascular risk less than 10%, so we can use our clinical judgment to give a statin even if the QRisk-3 score is less than 10%. The second clinical area refers to digitally enabled therapies for anxiety and depression. The following can be used as treatment options: Beating the Blues for anxiety and depression, SPACE, also for anxiety or depression, ICT, either PTSD or SAD for post-traumatic stress disorder or social anxiety disorder, and Deprexis for depression. They have risk management systems in place, so it has been concluded that using these digital therapies could increase access to treatment and support while ensuring patient safety. And finally, NICE also reviewed newer point-of-care tests for UTIs that give faster and more accurate results, sometimes showing which antibiotic the infection would respond to. The tests are still in the early stages and it is difficult to assess the risk and benefits, so these rapid point-of-care tests, such as Astrigo and Uriscreen, cannot be recommended for early routine use because further research is recommended. We have come to the end of this episode. I hope that you have found it useful. Thank you for listening and goodbye.